This episode is sponsored by Cocatel Collective, a strategic sales and marketing agency representing a highly curated portfolio of emerging beverage brands, from premium all-natural sodas, wine spritzes, and spirits all around the world.
Welcome to the In Process podcast, where we share stories of resilience and passion. We're excited that you found our YouTube channel, and we'd love to hear from you. So be sure to comment below and hit that like button. If you're enjoying these stories, be sure to subscribe and share. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to this episode of In Process. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Andy. And as always, big shout out to Atmosphere and the Rhyme Series crew for sharing their music with our show.
And today we are excited to introduce the duo team behind one of Chicago's beloved hospitality podcasts. When they're not hosting their show, you can find Tim Tierney at his stock manufacturing office in the West Loop, working alongside some of the best restaurateurs in Chicago on the next bespoke uniform. And if you'll find Danny Shapiro at any number of his incredible bars, wine bars, and restaurants such as Scofflaw, Slippery Slope, Heavy Feather, Moonlighter, and Outside Voices. Everyone, please welcome to the show, Tim Tierney and Danny Shapiro.
Welcome, Danny.
Good to have you guys. How's the morning been so far for the two of you?
Great. I got to drive out to Barrington because I left my laptop at my dad's house.
Nice.
I made it back to the city in record time. I pull into my garage. I'm like, Dad, I made it back in an hour or two. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
He's like, that's great. You left your laptop here.
290, right? Is what you're taking out there, or
90.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the whole way. What was your question, Jim?
How early did you leave?
This morning, I hit the road at 7:15. Met him halfway. Wow. That's Barrington
quick,
Road.
yeah.
Barrington. Awesome.
So,
When
yeah,
did
I had
you
a great
realize
start.
you didn't have your laptop?
In the garage. So my joy about breaking my record home was immediately dismantled.
Awesome.
Danny, how's your morning going?
Pretty good. Took the kids to school. A little unexpectedly, Ellie at the last second was like, "Can you just take the kids to school?" And I was like, "I guess so. Let's do it.
I love that.
Let's sit in
Is
that
that a
North Avenue
conversation
traffic."
every morning?
Yeah,
Who takes the kids to school?
She has acting class tonight, so it's like a scene study, and she's trying to memorize her lines. And so she just wanted a little extra time.
Now, I noticed you didn't memorize your lines for the Jean Bonche Awards.
I did not.
I thought she'd maybe run lines with you. No, wasn't the case.
I was way too nervous.
I love that. Well, I want to dive a little bit.
Hold on. Did you win a bunch on Manchester?
No, Tim and I presented a category.
No,
and
we
Scofflaw got
What?
nominated, but we
How did
did
I
not
miss
win.
that?
Oh, hell yeah, man. Well,
congratulations.
congratulations.
Yeah, it was funny. It was for Best Bar, it was like Scofflaw, Best Intentions, Meadowlark, and Cherry Circle Room. And before the show started, me, Abe, and Raul from Meadowlark and Cherry Circle Room all took a picture. And Chris and Calvin Marty weren't around from Best Intentions, so it's just a picture of the three of us, and
Yeah.
then we all three didn't win.
Yeah.
So we got a picture of like the three. We got a picture of the three losers.
Oh, man.
It was like
Burn
an
that
immediate
camera.
jinx.
I love that.
3 almost
So
winners.
good.
Danny, why don't we start with you? Just a little bit about your upbringing, and maybe tell us a little bit about how you hailed over here from Los Angeles.
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story, a little bit of a wacky route. I went to school in Virginia at the University of Richmond, and then afterward, I lived in Argentina for a minute after getting rejected from Teach for America. So that was super sweet. And yeah, I mean, so kind of lived in Argentina for like 6 months, came back home, decided to come to Chicago to do comedy writing at Second City. I'd always been like a big fan of SNL, and there are kind of like a few main pipelines, the Groundlings in LA, Second City in Chicago, some IO stuff. You know, there's a mix of different ways to get into SNL. So I started taking the core writing curriculum at Second City and quickly realized that I probably didn't have what it takes. Also, you have to really be a performer and a writer, and I was not really interested in being on stage. I just wanted to focus on the writing side of it. So I stayed in there for like a year, and it was like the core writing curriculum. It ends with like you staging a show and all that stuff. You get to cast it and write the sketches for it, which is a pretty cool process. But by the end of it, I was like, do I really want to be like grinding this out for the next 10 years with like a very slim % chance of making it?
Yeah.
And I just couldn't take that risk. And also at the same time, simultaneously, I'd started working in bars and restaurants. So I started bar backing pretty much as soon as I started those classes to make money. And then I started bartending. My first shift was like a brunch bartending shift where I probably made less than $10 in tips. Oh, yeah. And then had a lot of those, a lot of those great shifts. And then I'd kind of like been turned on to Paul McGee at the Whistler. And as soon as I went into the Whistler for the first time, I really fell in love with that place. And I was like, I have to be here. I have to work for Paul. I have, like, there was just something like really pulling me to it. So the first time I applied for a job there, I didn't get it. They hired this woman, Morgan, over me, and she was a badass. And then like months later, the Whistler had gotten written up in GQ as like the top 22 cocktail bars in America or something like that. So the Whistler was like really put on the map in a big way. And Paul asked me if I wanted to come work there, basically.
Oh, cool.
So I left running Perennial's cocktail program. I was really young, really inexperienced. I basically started doing this apprenticeship under Paul at the Whistler. And in this process, I had met two of my business partners, Andy and Mandy, through like these spirit classes at Southern Wine and Spirits. And we had kind of just loosely talked about the idea of opening a bar. And then this opportunity came where the bar that was before Scofflaw, called Street Side, it was up for sale. And Andy, Chris, and Mandy brought me in as like a fourth partner. We all put up the money to buy it. We all kind of had the same idea of what to do with it. So we bought it on December 20th, 2011. And then we turned it into Scofflaw over the next few months. There were some ups and downs, of course. But we opened Scofflaw officially on March 12th, 2012.
Wow. That is crazy.
You make it seem so like, oh yeah, we just opened the bar. Like the steps to
It was crazy.
entrepreneurship is, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and also while we were talking about the fact that Street Side was up for sale, my partners kept reminding me that like they'd been in this situation before. There was like a place up for sale and it fell through. So they didn't really think it was going to happen. They were like, there's probably a slim % chance it's going to go through.
Wow.
And then
Did that make it easier for you, you think, to commit?
I don't know. Yeah, I was so like naive. I was just like along for the ride. I was excited and hungry, I guess. We all were. You know, we had so much to lose. And I just think we were like so naive that we didn't even consider like the downsides.
Yeah.
We just like went all in and it worked out. We got very lucky. And then, you know, like parlayed that into other places.
You had immediate success, though, with Scofflaw, right?
Yeah, but it was super lucky. Like Lauren Vieira wrote this piece about how Scofflaw was kind of like not okay. We had established ourselves as being like a gin focused neighborhood cocktail bar, but because we weren't gin exclusive, because it wasn't 8 gin drinks on the menu, that it was like 4 gin drinks or 5 gin drinks and then some other drinks. Lauren Vieira really came after us in this article.
No.
And it was like the first piece of press that we did.
Oh, God.
And the community like rallied behind us so much. And that kind of like bad press and the defense by the community on our behalf, like really helped establish our success.
Yeah.
So like you could not manufacture that sort of thing. It was totally luck.
I mean, I think that says a lot about who you are and your community that you built up,
maybe, yeah.
leading up into that.
Or the city was just eager for a fight.
Not to mention, a gin cocktail bar is not exactly like it's just, maybe at the time, especially like back then, it's a harder sell than it just being in Chicago. And I guess for anyone that's listening that's outside of the city, it's like, this is a whiskey town, like through and through. I feel like even till today, people are exploring new spirits here, but the backbone, I feel like, of Chicagoans is very whiskey driven and not that adventurous. So, courageous of you guys to do that and like own that category. And like, it's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of that spirit, so
Yeah, thank you.
it's really cool. Tim, you want to kind of jump in and share with us a little journey here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
follow that, Tim.
You summed up 20 years pretty quickly. Okay, so I studied econ, and my first job out of college was on the trading floor at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Not a good fit. It was kind of past its heyday. I liked the energy down there and kind of the history. I liked that that's kind of the fabric that built Chicago, the commodities exchange. And then when I got there, I realized it wasn't really exactly what it had been in the past, and my interest had waned, and I just wasn't very good at it. So in college, I was on an art scholarship, and then I studied econ. So I kind of neglected that artistic side. So when I left the board of trade. I wanted to try something else.
Wait, so when you had the art scholarship, did they require you to do artistic stuff?
Oh yeah, I took all the art classes.
But you were allowed to major in whatever you wanted.
Right. I didn't have enough credits to be an art major. I was doing like an independent study thing that was like creative writing and illustration. And then my dad was kind of like, he's like, what are you going to do with that? He's like, maybe you need a real degree, which at the time I was like, but he was definitely right.
Tim is a pretty solid artist.
Thank you, Danny. I've drawn many
kind of art?
caricatures of Danny over the years.
No, he just has a good eye, obviously, but he can
Draw.
conceive
Drawing, mostly
things
drawing.
pretty completely
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, thank you, Danny.
in a way that I cannot. I drew up an ad for us the other day.
I feel like you guys are really getting to know each other.
There may be a potential joiner's ad coming, and I sent Tim like a rough sketch, and every time I've only had to do this twice in my life. One was I had to sketch out a pair of pants for stock one time.
Yeah,
And then I sketched out this
Stick
ad,
figure.
and I drew Tim and I just put a circle and wrote Tim with an arrow, another circle, and Danny with an arrow.
We can share it on Instagram. We'll give it to you guys.
That'd be great.
Okay, so I left the board of trade, and then I wanted to do something a little more artistic. I had a friend, my roommate at the time. I had 3 roommates. Moved to the city from Lake Forest College, and 3 roommates. I was the only person. This was 2008, so everyone graduated, and like no one had a job. I was the only person with a job. So my 3 roommates. One was waiting to start as a consultant. He had like the summer off, and then I had a friend who was a model who had just signed with Ford Modeling Agency, and then another friend who was kind of just hanging out. So I would come home from work at like 5 o'clock, and I'd just go straight to bed, and then I'd wake up and I'd have to be in the office at 5 a.m, and they'd be coming home as I was going out. I'm like, this sucks. But anyway, so after that job, the other 2 guys moved out, and it was just me and my friend Zach, who was a model, and he actually went to high school with Mike Morarity, my business partner, our designer at Stock. And so that's how I met Mike. And the idea was, let's start a clothing line together. Zach's like, I'll do the marketing and modeling. Mike will do the design, and Tim can do the business and like development side. So I'm like, all right, yeah, I got nothing else going on. So I tried to learn as much about the industry as I could. So I worked a bunch of shitty jobs, and it was basically setting up a series of internships to get a holistic view of how the apparel industry worked. And it was kind of at an inflection point where things were going like direct to consumer. Bonobos was like a new brand then.
Right, I remember.
So I started working at the factory in Garfield Park, owned by Isle, who's he helped us start Stock. So I was managing the production of a brand called Stormy Cromer. You might know their hats. They have like winter hats that have flaps that go over your ears. So they were doing shirt production in Chicago. I was managing that line. I helped open the Carhartt store in Chicago in Wicker Park. That was their first store. That was the beginning of their retail program, really. I started working with a Japanese textile mill called Zentex, and I was a fabric rep for a while. I enlisted in sewing classes up in Uptown, and I started working with a pattern maker out in Oak Park. So I was working all these weird jobs and still like making no money. And I was like, Mike and I were cleaning the bathrooms at the factory after work.
Oh, yeah.
I was cleaning my sister's apartment for rent money. She was paying me $60.
Wow.
And I look back at that, I'm like, really, Liz? You're giving me $60 to clean your apartment? It's like a 3-hour job.
$10.
True.
Could have been $10 tip, right?
So through that experience, our friend who's a model ended up moving to New York and then LA. So we kind of fell out of touch there. He wasn't really working on the line. And then
Is he still modeling?
Zach, yeah, he is. Very good looking guy.
That's
why.
Shout out to that handsome Zach.
Yeah. Here's to you, Zach. And so
I pictured you guys like Zoolander, just a bunch of models living together.
Pretty much. Although, no, it wasn't as fun as that because he hadn't reached like big acclaim yet. But anyway, so through those jobs, I kind of saw the inefficiencies in the industry and how like basically clothing lines they'll come up with a collection, like a seasonal collection. This is kind of antiquated now, but back then, this is back in like 2011, you would make a collection, you design a collection, you get your samples made, you go to a trade show, and you try to sell that to buyers.
Right.
When you're a new brand with no marketing budget, no one's really looking to take a chance on a new line.
I see.
And when you sell these things, then you have like 9 months to manufacture it and then deliver it. So you're selling stuff that you're going to
Way
deliver
out
like
in
a
advance,
year
right.
ahead. And it's like, you have no idea where the market's going to be there. It's basically a gamble. And then buyers are looking for the brands they know that are safe, that are going to sell for them. Also, around this time, boutiques were closing rapidly because of the economy.
Right.
So I'm like, it doesn't make sense to do this. Like, why don't we just release things as they're ready? And that was kind of the idea for stock. So we started out as a menswear line, and we teamed up with the manufacturer. We were making everything in Chicago. And early on, we did these collaborations with independent designers. This is actually when Jim came along, my business partner, Jim, you guys know.
Yeah.
He and Jason were running like a sale site for independent designers. And it was basically like a flash sale thing. It was like a tech company where they would take like extra inventory, put it up for sale for a short period of time and sell what they could. They realized that small brands didn't have manufacturing. So he reached out to Isle, who owns the factory, to be like a manufacturing resource, someone who could help small brands. We got introduced and we're like, we're working on this brand called Stock. Would you guys want to just team up? You guys know like the marketing and sales side. We know how to get stuff made and we can handle design as well. So we started working with the independent designers they were working with, and we set up we built out basically a platform like Kickstarter, where it was like, we'll pre-sell, put stuff up, we'll manufacture a sample, we'll photograph it, we'll put it up for sale. You guys push it out to your audience, we'll push it out to ours. If we reach 50 units or whatever, we'll manufacture it for you and ship it out. We realized that independent designers have no following. We had no following, wasn't really going anywhere.
Wow.
So we started networking and meeting people in apparel and fashion. And this is when like Tumblr was kind of a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And like menswear blogs were a big thing. Okay. And no one had really figured out how to monetize a following, like a social media following yet.
Yeah.
So we're like, why don't we team up with these menswear people who have like huge followings? We'll co-design a piece together. It could be something they're interested in, bringing back a historic piece, or like a thing they want but doesn't exist. So with that built-in audience, that was kind of an aha moment. Then we started to get some traction. And in the meantime, we started the business with $0. We were cutting up factory, like dead stock left at the factory. So rolls of fabric that had been at Isle's Korean, and his parents had the factory for like 40 years before I met Isle. So there was like old military fabric just kind of hanging out. So we started making ties and bow ties because it's the cheapest thing to manufacture. We'd sell those actually at a market that Danny's wife. Did you guys know each other? Did you guys know?
Yeah, I did, but we weren't together.
Okay, so Ellie, Danny's wife's brother. Man, this is really the intersection. We'll get to that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, we were selling stuff at like street markets, taking the money, buying more fabric, and then making more stuff. And then we were kind of running this brand. It wasn't really going anywhere, but we were kind of getting ideas and learning more about the manufacturing process. Eventually, so do you guys know the chef Dave Barron from?
I do not.
Was in Chicago. He's
From
at
Next.
MK True. He opened Next.
Wow. Okay.
Now he's out in Santa Monica. But he went to the same college as me and was friends with my sister. And he lived with us for a summer. So he like didn't have somewhere to go for a summer. He like came and stayed with us. So we became like really good friends. And then we kind of followed his culinary career. And then when he was at Next, I had the idea like, hey, I know how to make clothes. And they're changing their menu every 3 months. Why don't we make uniforms that match the menus at Next every 3 months?
Oh my God.
So I pitched this to Dave, and he's like, that's a very ambitious idea. He's like, I don't know if you guys or we have the bandwidth to do it, but we are looking at redoing the uniforms at Alinea Next.
Yeah.
He's like, would you want to take a stab at designing it? So we teamed up with Alinea, and we thought that would be like a one-off project. But you start making uniforms for one of the best restaurants in the world. Other people find out about it. And so that kind of snowballed. And then we're doing this menswear thing and then the uniform thing side by side. After a few years of that, we looked at the numbers, and it's like the uniform side was growing exponentially. The menswear was basically flat. So we lopped off the menswear, focused on uniforms, and that's how we started Stock.
Gotcha.
I thought you were going to say that initially when you talked to Dave and were like, hey, I'm going to do the uniforms every 3 months. He's like, that's too ambitious. Why don't you just start with a utensil pouch?
Oh, something smaller.
Yeah, because Tim made the little utensil pouches.
No, that was Royster. We made those for Royster. We designed that with Broshoe.
I think your guys is kind of the intersection is fascinating.
Yeah, we can get to that now.
Can you guys like?
Yeah, it's crazy actually.
Yeah. So I grew up in.
Tim can speak to it way better.
Yeah, I grew up in Woodstock, Illinois. And I went to Montessori in Crystal Lake, and my third grade teacher. It's a very small school. Like it's kindergarten through 8th grade. And the 8th grade graduating class is like 7 students. It's like one of those schools, very tiny. And my third grade teacher was this woman, Nancy Green. And Nancy had a daughter named Ellie, so, who ended up being Danny's wife.
Okay.
Insane. But we didn't meet through Ellie.
Right, we didn't meet through Ellie.
Nor did Tim introduce me to Ellie.
I still think I did. They
Did
won't
you know
acknowledge that.
Ellie back then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So Ellie, she's a few years older than me.
So my
but
mother-in-law taught Tim, and his mom taught my wife.
my mom was the
Oh,
art
what
teacher
the
at the same school. Yeah.
Insane.
So I knew Ellie, and I knew her brother,
Is your
Jack,
mom
who's
Nancy
close to my
Green?
No, it was my mother-in-law.
Yeah. Mother-in-law.
Yeah,
Mother-in-law.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess there's a more direct way to tell this story.
No, but it's nuts because Tim and I met at the Whistler. Tim would come into the Whistler.
Yeah.
So we kind of became friends through that, or at least like we knew each other. And then like Ellie had come into Scofflaw around when we opened, and that's how I met Ellie. And then at some point in time, like we realized, like Ellie was like hanging out with Tim at Scofflaw one time, and I was like, "Oh, Tim Tierney." Like it was so weird.
Yeah, because
like,
Ellie had moved back to Chicago.
Yeah.
Because she's a ballerina, like a very serious ballerina, and she was living in Denmark,
Copenhagen. Yeah.
Copenhagen, and so she just moved back, and so I was like reconnecting with Ellie, and I'm pretty sure we went to Scofflaw because we were hanging out a lot, and then you guys started dating, and we were like, whoa.
So
Danny
weird.
from the Whistler.
Yeah,
But like at that point, like we'd been going to Scofflaw because,
Yeah.
followed you over there.
But yeah, so strange.
That is strange. So hold on. So your mother-in-law
Yep.
was your teacher.
Yeah.
Yep. And then his mom was my wife's teacher.
Your mom was
That's not
Ellie's
as fun though.
Yeah.
Ellie's teacher.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. We
and then
met-
you all didn't meet till you were
Yeah, and we didn't meet like together. We met independently in weird
Wow.
pieces.
Right,
Jesus
right.
Christ. Small
Yeah,
world.
and I loved the Whistler. That was another thing. Like, so when we started making apparel for the hospitality industry, we designed a vest for Paul McGee because the
No
Whistler
way.
was like my favorite bar. I was there all
Oh,
the
no
time.
shit.
And then Danny started there, and I was dating Victoria at the time, and
Yeah.
Gretchen and I would come hang out all the time. And for some reason, Victoria referred to you as Mr. August.
Yeah,
I still don't know why.
That was my nickname for some strange
I
reason.
assumed you were like born
You on
in
a calendar
August.
somewhere?
I'm not born in August. There's no reason.
It was a swimsuit calendar is what it was. I love that.
And yeah, Tim and I are like a month apart, born a month
Oh
apart.
wow.
Yeah.
Same year
Yep.
as well.
Yeah, 86.
Oh jeez. You guys are destined to
To do a Joiners podcast.
So how did the podcast come up between, I mean, I know we kind of got a little bit before the show started,
Yeah.
but
So Jim, my business partner, was talking to our marketing team, and they're like, "You guys should start a podcast. Or, any way to get outreach." And so Jim was like, "Hey Tim, you listen to a lot of podcasts. Do you have any interest in starting a podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, that sounds fun." So I immediately reached out to Danny, and I'm like, it would just seem weird if it was like, "Oh, here's like a manufacturer and supplier for this industry." It seemed like very opportunistic, and I'm like, if we want to get have interesting conversations that are more industry focused, we need someone who's inside the industry, and that's Danny. And so I was like, "Danny, you want to do a podcast?" He's like, "Didn't you? I don't think you even thought about it." You're just like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do it."
I was already speaking to a fake mic. I had my fake mixer. I had fake headphones on.
Yes, like let's plug that mic in.
Yeah, you don't have to pretend anymore, man.
Yeah,
This is
but-
real.
But we didn't know anything. So I have a friend out in San Francisco, in Benicia, and he's like the friend who knows about audio and stuff like that. So I'm like, "Hey, what stuff do we need to buy to do a podcast?" So he sent us a list. He's like, "If you want to go low, medium, or high, and this is what you can do." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Will you also produce the podcast?"
Yeah.
Because we don't know how to do anything.
We're like, also, is there an option that's lower than low? Cost wise.
And we found it. And if you guys listen to episode 1 of our
And two.
podcast, it sounds like complete shit.
What was the setup?
We didn't
Mics
have
in a
acoustic
room.
paneling. Yeah, it was just awful.
Yeah. Then we added the foam pads, and that
That
made a
changed
huge
things.
difference.
yeah.
Game changer.
Then it was listenable. Like the people that listened to the first few, God bless you. I would have turned that shit off immediately.
Yeah, my business partner Chris is like, it was painful.
Ugh, yeah.
So why the name Joiners?
I'll let Danny tell it.
Yeah, so basically we were trying to figure out a name as two people do when they're trying to start a podcast.
Kimchi
And-
Kids was already taken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Sorry about that, guys.
It's available now. If you guys
You
want
can
it.
fight these
know,
other
I'm pitching
assholes
Danny
for
on
it.
it.
Is what you can do.
Yeah, so basically joiners, the term came from in bars and restaurants I'd heard the term like if you have like a two top, and then someone's like joining their reservation as
Right.
like the third person.
The
It's
late
like,
joiner.
Yeah, there's like a joiner
Yeah.
for this two top. And so it's always two of us and a joiner. So the people that come on are the joiners, you know.
I love that.
So it kind of
I
made a
shot
lot
it
of
down
sense.
immediately, and then I think like 2 days later I texted Danny back. I'm like, actually, that's perfect. Let's do it. And I'm glad it's a good name.
It's a great name.
Yeah, it
I love
worked out.
that. What has been like a surprise for you guys? What surprised you both the most about having your own show now that like you guys? And let me give a little context here. So, how many episodes in are you guys currently? And know that by the time this
600,
thing gets out, this is like months away. But
We're in the 80s.
jeez,
And it's February.
87
So,
came out this
yeah.
morning.
and you guys started what year, what month?
We started June 2022.
Wow. So you guys, it's a lot of production.
We're doing
it's
one a week.
One a week. Yeah.
We've gotten close to having to do a wild card episode.
Oh,
Actually, you guys are good to talk about this with. Last minute cancellations.
right,
Come on, you guys.
right.
We like to have.
How often does that happen to you?
We like to have,
You know, I'm gonna be honest. Like we have only had one that I can
Cancellation?
a last minute cancellation.
Who canceled?
And it wasn't even last minute. I don't want to call this guy out. It was the night before. Yeah,
was Zach.
it was Zach Engel. So
I don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
he's already on
Fucking guy.
yeah,
so
you know,
good.
restaurants. He's like, "Fuck, this thing is happening. I have to fucking deal with it." And
Yeah,
so
we've
we've
had a
gotten
few.
really lucky with, I would say.
But you guys have time because you, like you said, this will come out in a couple months or whatever. But a lot of times ours is coming out the next week. So we like to have like
Jesus.
2 or 3 that we're sitting on.
I
So it's
love the pressure.
It's
It
like
is.
keeping that SNL pressure alive.
seriously, it is. But we've also had like we had one person
Cancel multiple times.
canceled 4 times in a row. And it wasn't even her canceling.
I would
It
have.
was,
I would have.
It's like they're the assistant too.
it was the assistant. I'm like, after the 4th one, I'm just like, all right, forget it.
you're
Never
done.
mind.
Yeah.
And it was like a guest that people had requested we have on, and I was kind of excited about it. But
Yeah.
Wait, I have another question
won't
for them
happen.
that's relevant to this. Do you also have people reaching out to you to be on that you have no interest in having on?
Yes, we do. Yes, the answer is yes.
And that's so tough because like we're not like I'll speak for us.
Yeah.
And I think we can all relate. Like we're not all particularly huge. These podcasts aren't making us a living, like whatever.
right.
So when you
yourself,
turn
man.
someone so when you turn someone down, you like feel bad because in theory, like we are the local thing that
Right.
you should be able to come on and tell your story.
Yeah.
But there are things that just aren't a great fit.
yeah, sometimes it's just not relevant. We get some out of the box things. Where it's like, well, no, we're covering hospitality.
Yeah. It's an interesting flip, right? I mean, especially coming from all of our backgrounds here, like we're usually on the other side of this going like, hey, how do we get some
for sure.
PR and some press for our businesses? And it's like, I told Andy, I remember the first time we had like our first like person reach out. We're like, how fucking weird is this, dude? That like people are asking us to give them like a spotlight, you know? And it's like, yeah, the answer is yeah, we want to give everybody, right? But it's got to make some sense. Like it's got to fall into the fold of what the show is about. And at the end of the day, we want to like spotlight people that like are doing some really cool things, you know? And
Another
And
funny
sometimes
thing.
it's sweet though. Like so people will be like, here are like if it's a PR company, it's like these are our clients. Anyone you're interested in talking to, and you're like, yeah, actually, definitely.
Yeah.
We've gotten guests that way.
That's really cool.
Funny thing that happened relative to the early days of the podcast. Someone reached out to us to check out this restaurant to eat at. And Tim and I were like, okay, like this is like fun, like a funny, strange perk that we didn't expect.
oh, they invited you to dine
Yeah.
at their restaurant.
Yep. And Tim and I are like, okay, let's do it. See what's up.
Oh God, it was horrible. Or
No,
what?
it wasn't even horrible. It was just like we didn't know like what was going on.
What was the
We were like,
expectation?
were we
You know?
was this comped? Were we paying for
Yeah,
it?
they like
it
dropped the full
ultimate-
bill on you.
No, it was ultimately comp, but like we were just sitting around, like we didn't know. I think
yeah.
our server didn't like. It was just like a strange situation.
Yeah.
And one of the themes on Joiners Pod is like uncomfortable social situations. So like Danny and I do kind of get a kick out of that. Like, a lot of our intros touch on things
Yeah.
that happen to us throughout the day, and we're like, this might be interesting to discuss with Danny.
Yeah, I love the intros. I think like just thinking about the first one that comes to mind is like the Nuna Kebab, the guy that's like pitching. He's like, "Oh, you guys are in the industry?" He's like, "Well, guess what? I got some properties."
I know. I felt kind of bad about that one because the guy was like genuinely nice and interested.
But
and
the prank was him pretending like, you guys just share this table. I'll act like I'm not even here. And then seconds in,
immediately,
hey, I got this building. I hear that like he's totally fully listening to what we're saying.
Was this guy super serious?
He was pretty serious.
Oh, wow.
And I felt bad because we told him about the podcast, and then he's like, "Oh, nice, I'm going to listen." And then the next one, Danny's like, "Let's talk about that guy in the intro." I'm like, "No, man. He's going to be listening to this." He's like, "He's not going to listen."
Well, she's out there like fucking fuming still. He's like, I thought those guys were my fucking friends, man.
Yeah, he's buying out all of our buildings from under us.
Exactly. We shared a great
Oh
meal
man,
together.
one thing I want listeners to understand, and like obviously big fans of your show, is sometimes like people don't understand the work that goes into producing something as simple as this podcast, and you guys both have your hands full all the time. Like, I think for anyone that isn't familiar with stock, or any of Danny's businesses here, like, and you're listening from outside of Chicago, like both of these guys have their plates full. Like they have incredible enterprises, and we're super excited. Like I'm a huge fan of Danny's businesses. I've been going to some of his bars for the longest time. Like when I lived in Park Ridge, Logan Square was like my great. Like I got 20 minutes to get into the city, and so Logan just made a lot of sense. I've always been there, and then obviously for anyone that doesn't know. Andy and I work with Stock Manufacturing for our uniforms here at this restaurant, and we're working on something really cool in the future as well.
Very cool.
And so,
I saw
needless
a
to
very cool
say,
prototype.
yeah. Needless to say, these guys have their hands full all the time. How do you guys manage to how does this work in your schedules, and how are you guys like dealing with all of the extra production work that happens here?
I've gotten very good at doing the bare minimum. not at stock, but like with the podcast.
It's like not a stock, Jim.
No,
Like I was kind of one of those students where like I got straight A's, but I would do the very minimal amount to get that A.
Minimum effective dose, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think Danny and I have worked out a pretty minimal, like a pretty streamlined system for the podcast. Like we schedule people, we're like block out 2 hours during the week, and we record in GarageBand. We send it off to our producer, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, Tim has to do like memory card swaps with Guzzo for like the video stuff and cutting the reels.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we have someone who do the reels. Matt produces the audio, and the rest is kind of taking.
You guys have a
I
team.
do the social media, which is
You guys have a full team.
minimal.
Yeah, there's like a couple. Yeah, and if we want to do like real video production, like we just did an episode with Mindy. That's going over like a lead balloon in Tim's words. But we did this video with Mindy that's pretty funny. It's on YouTube. So like if we ever do stuff like that outside of the podcast, but podcast adjacent, then it does take more time. And I think that's like, that makes it a little bit harder.
Is that where you guys kind of want to see this thing go from here? Is there aspirations of like taking this from a podcast to a different medium of media?
Yeah, I mean, I think some feedback that we've heard is that not that Tim and I are, particularly interesting or the most interesting people ever, but people are like, yeah, it's fun to hear you guys like riff with each other. And people don't really get to know you guys throughout the course of an interview. And we have such incredible guests, and we kind of just are constantly thinking about things. We're pretty creative people. So we felt like the longer form, like YouTube episodes were a good outlet for that. And it just like frees us up to do fun stuff.
Yeah, I think it's more about like, we get to interact with all these amazing chefs. Like, how could we make that more fun?
Right.
So, like, the idea to have Danny smoke weed with Mindy, it's like we love spending time with Mindy. Like, any excuse to go hang out at the bakery is cool.
Yeah.
And then to make Danny smoke weed and
hell yeah,
actually
smoked
freak
in
out.
15 years.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Like that was
Wow.
I'm gonna tell you guys in the old show that we don't name anymore. There was an episode we had this idea that we would. I mean, we re-record pretty early. I guess for anyone that's listening, we're here at our restaurant, and we start the show at 11 o'clock in the morning. But back in the day, we were at this guy's studio, and we were like doing those group episodes every once in a while at the time. And like one time we had this idea, we're like, let's let's get a little relaxed before the show together, and we'll do a team episode. And that never went out.
Aired.
It
It was
was
the
like,
best episode we've
it went from like aliens
man, all the
to
cliches.
just fucking. Oh
gotta
my
hear
god!
this.
Everyone was nervous. Like I was definitely a little bit like,
I think we
Inside
were
your
just
head.
paranoid. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's too early, man.
Yeah.
It's just
We're
didn't-
all just blazed.
Yeah,
What?
I think the secret is to get a little high.
There you go.
Yeah, we got a lot high.
Yeah, it was a little too much.
But yeah, to answer, I guess, that question, to give a more concise answer,
Yeah.
is that where we see the future going? I think it's just something simultaneously that we enjoy pursuing. We'd never stop doing the podcast, but I
Yeah.
think it's just fun to explore a new medium.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more comfortable on audio than video. I prefer a podcast.
Oh, interesting. Is the video never on you guys over there?
No,
No.
it's always trained on
It's
our
not.
guests.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the video exists solely for 2 teaser reels for each
Okay.
episode.
Yeah.
And then people are like, "Oh, do you have like the full episode on YouTube that we could watch?" I'm like, "No." But people do that. Like, I was talking to Juan Kim last week about that. He's like, "You guys should put it up on YouTube."
Yeah.
Because he watches podcasts on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
we
I'm
throw
always
all
listening.
of our
I'm in the
full
car.
episodes up there. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, all full episodes
Are
are
any of
live
them
on.
getting like significant views?
No.
Yeah,
But
our video has like a couple hundred views. The one with Mindy.
you know, YouTube is just a funny arena though. Like the people that I watch, and I watch a ton of YouTube versus like live TV or anything like that and DVR stuff. So I just feel like YouTube's one of those platforms where it's like you just got to put in the work and time. Like the
I think
people
so.
that show up on your
Persistence.
algorithm have been doing it for like
sure.
6
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
They have like hundreds and hundreds of videos. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things, but
Yeah.
it's always fun to look back on these episodes too.
That was eye opening. We had Adam Witt, the first Adam on
Hell
the
yeah.
pod last week, and
Yeah, you did a video with him, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
yeah.
talking through it. Yeah, it was a fried chicken battle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But talking with him, I'm like, man, like it's a full time, like there's a science to YouTube, and I don't have the patience
Yeah.
to figure that out. Or I don't.
No,
like
I
the
think it's just like
desire.
I think like Thomas said, it just takes time.
Yeah.
And consistency. But there's a lot of, there's theory there.
Yeah, but also like for our podcast, in the beginning we had very few listeners. Now we have, again, who knows how you judge the metrics,
Right.
but a lot more than we did then.
Yeah.
And it's just like fun to watch it grow. And I think it's just the consistency, putting it out. And then yeah, each new episode like gets a little, expands the audience a little bit.
Right.
Some new people find out about it. I'll say that there are episodes that we thought would be super big that weren't, episodes that we didn't think would be big
Yeah.
at all that became bigger than we thought.
100%. Like we have the same, I feel like it's the same situation here. Like we've had guests who are like, and sometimes it's always hard. Like I think we're just naturally in our team here and I'm sure you guys are the same. It's like, we're always like, we want to put out the best thing possible, whether it's like the work we're doing in our restaurants or in our careers and also this show. Right. And sometimes like we're like listening to this stuff and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to do well, and then we like release it and then it's like, wow, like that one went really well with people and people enjoyed it. And I also believe that, part of me listening to your show isn't necessarily for your guests, but it's to hear and hang with you guys on it. And
Thank you, Tom.
like,
Thank you.
Exactly.
But I feel like that's how it is, like listening to yours or any, like it's funny, like the guest might get you to click on it,
Yeah.
but you're listening to that pod because of who's
Right.
running it.
right.
I agree.
I think the proof of that is like when celebrities make the media circuit, somebody puts a show out or a movie out or whatever, they're going to be on Conan, they're going to be on Dax, they're going to be on Smartless. And it's like, which host do I think will do the best job with this? And I'm kind of falling off Smartless, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like Conan, you put Conan in a room by himself, he's going to be entertaining.
Right.
He can carry any conversation,
Yeah.
any sort of interview. And I guess it's partly dependent on who the guest is, but also you need to make sure if an interview is not interesting, it's probably the interviewer's fault. Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
were like
definitely.
underprepared or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always our fault.
Essentially at the end of
Well,
the day.
sometimes a guest can come on too and just be so low energy, and then you match it. That's like a
Yeah.
flaw that we've
yeah.
realized in ourselves, is that it's hard not to match someone else's energy.
It's hard for you. Danny gets sucked down, and then it doubles the pressure on me. That was an issue early on, I think, because Danny
just
is
wanted to
laid
say
back.
suck down.
He's LA cool.
Ooh, yeah.
He's got that laid back demeanor. He's like Travis Birkenstock and Clueless.
Well, you know what? Now, and I was just thinking about this now for anyone that listens to your show. Now they can see these two handsome gentlemen on our YouTube channel and get to see what they look like.
There you go.
Because I'm sure you guys got a lot of listeners that are not from Chicago, do not know who you are, but are like really invested and interested in your show and the two of you. So I think it's always good to put a face to the name.
Danny gets a lot of fan mail. I haven't gotten any
Oh,
yet.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Requests, yeah.
That's great.
Signed headshots.
Just some fan
Reveal
art.
Hey, here's my resume too. Also, it's
We have a Danny plushie doll coming out for Valentine's Day.
hell yeah.
Yeah. That's a nice thing about making merch. I can hook that up
Do
for him.
anything.
I love that.
The fan art's just filling our mailbox.
Any big? What are the biggest challenges you guys have faced? I know we touch on a few right now with like some people canceling, but are there any other challenges that you guys face on a regular, or something that sticks out in your mind that like just was like fuck?
I mean, video failures have happened.
Yeah, we're not good with, we're not AV guys.
But we've never lost an episode. Audio.
Okay.
We've
We
lost
have.
video.
That's a video.
Was this the John Mannion one?
Oh my God.
Is that what?
This was from Hune.
Oh, Hune Bakery.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know, I just
Ellen
realized that.
Page.
One of my favorite episodes that we.
It was the
Wait,
best
and the
episode.
audio just got lost?
no, the
No,
video
the
guy.
video-
Yeah, the guy just
He's
like
a cocksucker, and he just fucking forgot about the record button for some fucking reason. You know? But, I don't know.
we need to stay away from
That's-
that
I don't
topic
refer
because
to
I
him
feel
as
like
that.
all of a
Sorry.
sudden the blood is boiling right now.
Well, wait, but you have the whole episode.
We have
audio.
the episode.
We've released the audio.
Yeah, okay, great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's
think.
not. I mean,
We
yeah.
were going to have Hune on. We got canceled on last minute.
Oh no.
Ellen Page
now
is
Ellen-
awesome, man.
Yeah,
She was
she's-
probably like tearing down and rebuilding like the foundation of her bakery because like that's
She
just
was.
the type
It was
of
an
person.
emergency.
Yeah, she's an awesome human being.
Yeah.
Just
I think they were redoing the floors or something.
yeah,
It was valid.
Yeah, she's
great
just,
though.
Yeah, she's hilarious. She would be
Yeah.
great with you guys.
Yeah, it's got that Midwest, sensibility and like also just that humor and charm. That Ellen's great.
Ellen, if you're out there, reach back out. We'll have you on. Please.
Not to mention she's probably gonna bring you guys some baked goods
Nice.
and
Always a plus.
Right.
That is
Now
a
you're
plus
turning
for
on the
pod.
pressure
Yeah.
to force Ellen to.
yeah.
to deliver.
Remember, like
such
I
baked
thought
goods.
they told us you
I'll,
would.
I'll even add to it, Ellen. Make sure you bring them that croissant baguette thing because that thing is like
my
it's
God.
crack. It's literally I could finish the whole baguette by myself.
So she makes this baguette. Have you had this before? And it's
I've been to Hume
It's
before.
layered like a croissant,
Whoa.
or
Flaky,
laminated like
yeah.
a croissant, but it's like chewy it's just was one of the most incredible breads I've
It's
ever.
it's a cronut, but
with
Yeah,
a
baguette and croissant, and it's got like everything bagel seasoning on there, and it's just it's ridiculous.
a quaguette.
there it is.
Quagat.
Any favorite moments you guys have had on the show? I'm sure you guys have had a few here.
Favorite moments.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Favorite interviews.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Costa Drosos from Fresh Marketplace is probably my favorite episode.
He's the proprietor behind Fresh Market.
He's the manager of it. Yeah. I think he's a partner in the Bucktown one, but he's just like it was
He embodies hospitality.
exactly, and that was like
in an arena that is not necessarily expected to deliver in that way.
Mm.
and it was it was our first like out of the box kind of. It was the first like non-restaurateur, somebody specifically from the restaurant industry,
Right.
And so it was kind of a gamble. And Danny I think was a little bit unsure, so I had to pitch him on it. And then after the interview, we were both like, "Oh my god, that was amazing!"
Yeah, he
And
was
it-
really great.
and it got a huge response.
The
Just
response
because
has
people
been
love him.
really big. Yeah, people like come out of the woodwork just being like, "I love that guy. He's the best. He did this for me." Like he's done so much for so many people.
Yeah.
He's
like
he's
totally
on
an
a
unsung
totally-
hero.
Yeah, he's on
What's
his
his
own
name?
level. Costa
Costa.
Drosos.
Costa Drosos.
Yep, Kosta. Greek.
Yeah.
Shout out to Costa.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Funny moments of the pod. I'm trying to think. Memorable moments.
I think that having Rick Bayless was big for us because
Yeah.
he's a big name.
Yeah.
And And I think Danny and it was very early on in the pod, and Danny and I both were kind of like starstruck.
Yeah.
we clammed up a bit.
Yeah.
But you have enough conversations with enough people by the end.
Did that show go well?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
This is another thing to talk about with fellow podcasters. There are moments in interviews where you could ask a question to go deeper and maybe turn it from like lighthearted to a little bit more serious. And we had a couple opportunities in the Rick Bayless episode specifically. And I remember thinking about asking these questions, but because I guess we were newer to it and it was like our first really big guest, we kind of shied away from it. And I kind of regret a little bit not prying a little bit as an interviewer.
Yeah,
but
it was mostly just like alluding to things. He was like, well, and then my whole world blew up. And anyway, so then we're like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
And like we were just too bashful to be like,
he like yada 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 to us.
Yeah, we got
He was like yada yada yada. And then this happened. You're like, wait, what? How did you get from there to there?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like handling the conversation is definitely an art. We've learned that here. We've had moments where guests have really just taken the show completely away, and it's like
In a good way.
not always, man. It's like sometimes I'm like, hey, dude, we had like this much time for your biography, but I guess thanks for
45
listening,
minutes.
guys. Like, thanks for listening to this episode.
Yeah, do you have the hard cut off?
We used to we've kind of played with it here and there. We're like, yeah, maybe we'll try to keep it at 60. But honestly, like through and through, and now like doing this for like 3 years, I feel like we've just kind of like, hey, where the conversation goes, like let's just enjoy it. Because I'm sure that's the same for you guys. Like we
just did a really long one that I'm wondering if it's too long.
How long?
It'll be like 2+.
Oh wow.
Man, how long was that Juan Kim episode?
Juan Kim and so
Spencer.
we had to break it up into 2 parts. It was so long.
It was like 3.5 hours.
Just
Juan talking shit.
just Juan talking shit.
So I'm sure it's all entertaining.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
We've had a couple.
It was one of my favorite reels. Was that Juan Kim one that we did where Juan's just like, are these balls or something like that? It's like deep into our Instagram, but it's great.
Yeah.
We've had I'm kind of like, let's just let it roll, and if we have to cut stuff out, we can. I think Danny records on his laptop, so he sees the time, and so he's more aware of it. And Danny usually has harder outs than I do, but like there are a couple where you could just set down the microphone and let someone go.
Yeah.
Brian Jupiter was one of those.
Oh,
where
awesome.
But he was
he's just
great.
like, oh yeah, very entertaining.
That's okay. 2 different things. Sometimes it's going long in a great way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of energy, a lot of interesting stuff. Sometimes it just like goes on because someone has taken their bio and expanded it, extended it, just like stretched it as long as they could.
Right.
And you're like, because like you can't even ask any, like, and you're like, that's a hard thing to
There are 2
control
types
for.
of episodes. One where you look at the clock and think, how the hell are we going to fill an hour? And, and the other one's where you look at the clock and you're like, how the hell are we going to fit this in an hour?
Oh,
for
wow.
sure. That's true.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well said.
I remember there was this one time. We're not gonna say who it was.
I know. Andy
All right?
will.
Jesus Christ, please don't say it. So we're like talking and we're like trying to like I'm very mindful. I'm like always looking at my watch. I'm like, all right, we're so and so minutes in, and we're still on this person's story, and I'm just like, I remember, I was at a good point where I'm like, I need to move this on. And like I said something, I was like, great. I'm like, hey, speaking of which, like let's dive into like your actual business. And it was like, oh, you don't want me to? I mean, we're gonna.
I'm only 4 years old right now. You really want to?
And it was like me and Andy like on
I'm
the
just learning
show
how to
got
walk.
caught, and it was like, and it was such a moment where we're like. And we just conceded. We're like, no, of course.
No,
let's
continue,
Let's
please.
please. Let's. And I'm like, add another hard like memory card or something. Like Jesus, it's like it was so long, and we're like, fuck. And then after that episode, we're like, yo, how do we avoid that ever again? And it happened again. And at another point,
the next
with another
episode.
dude, he's like. Oh, I still got a lot more to go here. And we're like, yeah, go for it, man.
Then you're more prepared the next time.
Yeah. We always learn, but I'm sure you guys are doing this now, and you guys are crushing these episodes. I imagine most people don't understand this because they're either on the other side of the microphones, right, on as a guest on your show, or they're just tuning in on their phones. But one thing we always talk about here is just how impactful these conversations that we have that are sprinkled into all over the chaos of our normal schedule. And I love having these conversations. I feel like we always build a strong relationship with the people that come on our show. And is there any guest specific that you feel like, man, I just didn't know them like to this point, and then all of a sudden it's like now they're like family to us. Like,
Yeah, I feel like Mannion
Almost
for
every
me was like
episode.
that.
John is an incredible human being.
Not only is he one of, if not the most mentioned person on our podcast of all
It's a
time.
tie between him and Jason Hamill.
Him and Hamill.
Yeah, I
But
could
didn't
see
know,
that.
I didn't know Mannion that well coming into it. I mean, I'd like met him. We were friendly.
Yeah.
But just, it seems like a transition has happened where like now we're pretty close.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if that was fully facilitated by the podcast or if that was like the catalyst, but
Yeah.
that was an episode where I came away from it just.
Yeah, John is, so first and foremost, if you guys haven't checked out an episode of Joiners, that would be like the one that I like nudge people. I'm like, check out John Mannion's Joiners
I
episode.
do too.
Because we had John on way like years ago now. It what feels
It
like
was a little over a year ago.
okay. And so that was one of the lost tapes, right? It like never got out. And so I was like, I already knew that whole story. And I think John's story is so fucking interesting.
Yeah.
When we had him on our show for Bracero, where I was just like, I wanted to just be like, hey, like, if you want to hear the best part about this, like, go check out that episode because it's a long story, but it's a great story. And I told him on the show, I'm like, John, you got to write a book because it's just so fucking, and he's so good.
Yeah.
Like his cadence and
sure.
like he can tell that story 100 times. Like I'll never get sick and tired of it. Like,
Yeah,
and he's just a
absolutely.
great human being. And so it's like easy to talk to him. And yeah, I love that. Like that one stood out. So that's really cool.
And he's just very well liked in the industry. He's the man.
Yeah.
He is.
But to that point, like getting close with people, it's fun when I go to an event like the Bonche Awards or like the cookbook party at Lula Cafe. Like you see people who've been on the pod. You walk in the room and you're like, oh my God, half these people have been on the pod. But it's exciting because you know them pretty intimately at that point. So you know it's very comfortable to go up and just have a natural conversation with somebody. That's a fun part of it.
Yeah.
A funny aside story, because it was like a little bit before we've felt comfortable with all these guests. Tim and I went to an event. It was like an anniversary for something. I don't know that I want to be super specific. And we had seen like guests from the pod at this event, but it was like so packed that Tim and I were like awkwardly like, okay, like we didn't really want to interact. Like it was like they were all working it, and we were just kind of like there.
Yeah, I know.
So
Yeah.
much.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it was just
I
like
think I do
it was
too.
it was a packed
Was it a
room.
20-year celebration? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't.
No,
was I
it's
not
all
supposed
good.
to-
No, it's all good. We can, we'll talk offline about it.
No,
It's not even a great
I
story.
agree
just-
though. Like I think we've definitely like the relationships that we've been able to form throughout doing this podcast.
I mean, sitting with you guys at the Bracero preview was awesome.
Yeah.
Seeing your detailed notes.
Yeah. So,
The most
so I will
critical
say
notes.
for people that are listening, so John Mannion, incredible chef, restaurateur here in Chicago, invited a handful of like close friends to a sneak peek preview of the Bracero menu, and we were able to sit. We sat right in front of Danny and got to know you a lot better that
that was
day.
great.
And it's just something.
I was
I
sandwiched
think that's
between
like
the most critical people, you guys and Mindy.
Mindy Siegel. I think it's like one of those like it was one of those moments for at least me that I was like, this is the magic of the community of Chicago's restaurant industry and hospitality industry. Like I'm looking around the table and it's like you got the guys behind Tempesta Market, you've got, Biddy Zaragoza right in front of us. You've got, like all these incredible, talented people from all different kind of walks of the industry. And to see like John just like, and his team, shout out to Adam, they like just fully vulnerable. They're like, hey, we're putting this food out for you. When we want you to just like tear this thing apart, like no bullshit. No, like, I don't need celebrations here. It's like, we want feedback. And it was a really cool event to be a part of. I felt really kind of like, special, kind of being included in that. And I thought that it was just a awesome, just again a reminder to me of like what makes the fabric of Chicago's hospitality industry so fucking special and cool. It was also hilarious to see some of the feedback. I was like, how fucking deep do I go on some of this?
You guys are going
and
so
I was
deep.
like,
Zach Engel was
listen,
going deep.
I don't bullshit John and Adam, like I'm gonna like just tell them what I think. And then I was like looking at some of the other papers around me and I was like, oh, okay. Like some people were like, I'm not gonna say who it was, but it was like the I think it was like the shrimp course that came out. And someone just was like, El Che shrimp, fuck yeah, right? And I was like, yeah, I think they're gonna definitely use that information from you. Like, how is that helpful to these guys? But just really cool.
That's my catchphrase.
I'll chase
I'll
shrimp.
chase your
Fuck
fuck yeah. That would be a good merch item. I went the following week. They did a bunch of soft openings. It was like a full month.
Yeah.
I went and to your point, I sat with Wade from Leisure Activities, the owners of Camp Wandawega. Maggie Hennessy was there. So it was a good opportunity to see people. And that was like the hardest I've gone in on like restaurant feedback. And I'm not a chef, but like I'm a diner.
Right.
And I go to a lot of soft openings because we do a
made
lot of
a bosom
uniforms
last
for
night.
places. I did make a bosom last night.
Oh shit!
Yeah, wow.
Like at home?
Yeah. Super Bowl.
Yeah, we all did this stuff.
Yeah, this is a common dish.
Tim's
for
made the
me,
bosom a
actually.
bunch.
It's the bosom. It's the Momofuku bosom recipe, but you do a sandwich. You know the one that is from a Bon Appetit
The roast,
podcast.
the pork shoulder that he
Yep.
does.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep, bone and pork butt, and but it's a sandwich with potato roll. It's like a scallion ginger slaw, hoisin sauce, cilantro lime mayo, and kimchi, and it's the best sandwich.
I love that.
Yeah,
Very good.
Sounds delicious.
it's a tasty treat. Why'd you railroad me? What were we talking about?
You were talking about it was your
I'm not
first
gonna
time
lie. I
doing
was like,
restaurant
why are we talking
yeah.
about both?
So we go to
Yeah.
a lot of soft openings. And usually I get
yeah.
the comment card, and I'm like, it's awkward. Like, he's like, what do you say?
You say,
'cause
"El Che shrimp, fuck yeah."
It's like usually they're opening the next day, so they can't change anything. But Mannion did it nicely, where they did several meals. And,
Yeah.
and
I mean, they
a full
dialed
month.
it in.
Yeah,
It was legit.
yeah. The food is outstanding.
Did you guys go? Have you gone back?
Tim did.
I
I
went
need
back
to go back.
last
They're
week.
open now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I
We
went
should go
on-
back
I went on
together
night
without
3.
Yes.
We should. Yeah.
See if they took, see if they took some of my
Let's
notes
trim the
serious.
fat out of here, and then just the three of us.
We had our stock Christmas party at our apartment, and John and Adam and a couple other chefs came and
yeah.
cooked. So we got a preview there for the menu, and
I
it
love
was
that.
like it was blown away. I was blown away. Then they had the like that beef shank.
Yeah.
Did you guys have that? We didn't have.
I
the
don't think
opening either.
so.
How's
But
Ragging
it's on the
Camp
menu
going?
now. It's a $205 item, so it's a fancy thing.
Wow.
Yeah, but we had one leftover, so we had way too much food, and I took that to Shannon's mom and stepdad's house for Christmas, and I was like a celebrity.
You like I prepared this. It's
I didn't take credit for it. I should have.
I love that.
They know me better than that.
What are some things you guys are looking forward to with joiners? Like any, I know we kind of touched on a little bit of this, but like obviously the merch, right? You guys,
Yeah,
Can we tease the dinner?
Oh yeah, we're gonna do a dinner.
Oh,
we can
yeah.
tease that. We're gonna do a dinner with PQM. We've been talking to Rob Levitt about that, where we'll do, and hopefully it turns into a series. But we're gonna do a dinner with some guests who've been on the pod cooking, and we've always been curious about doing a live episode, and so we're gonna kind of ease into that. I think we're gonna do maybe just the gratuity round live.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we don't know what people's patience is for that sort of
I think
thing.
it'd be distracting to
you know,
do a
I
full
mean,
interview
I will
and-
say this, and I'll shout out while we're here and like doing this community here. There's another podcast in Chicago called Terms of Service, and they've actually done a live episode here while like this restaurant is open.
Wow.
And we, obviously at the time, I think like this room looked very different behind us, but it was like they had the whole like not this light setup, but they like kept it to a minimum. And it was really cool. Like they had Tata on the show and Margaret and Vinod, and it was cool. Like it was cool to see. And I know they do this quite a bit, and so
That's cool.
yeah, it's definitely something we've like talked about doing and just trying to figure out how to do that. So I think definitely like James Beard weekend, we'll probably maybe set something up here and do.
That'd be cool.
That'd be very cool.
The problem is just releasing it like 7 months later. It's like, but you guys have a different workflow than us. Like we like crush episodes and then we just like spread it out, you know?
Yeah.
We also
yeah.
don't do as many though. We release every 3 weeks.
Every
Well,
2
yeah,
weeks.
2 weeks, but it's going to 3 now because we have this big restaurant to open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
gonna
guys
be
are
great.
busy.
So we're just kind of like pushing it out because it's still something we love to do, and we don't want to stop it. But you know, it's like it's a labor of love too, and you guys know that. And it's like so is opening up a brand new restaurant with 21
Yeah, one's
services.
paying
One,
the bills.
yeah, one has upside and one doesn't.
Yeah.
No, there could be upside on both.
No, I know.
But
Have you guys had some pretty cool sponsors come in your way too? By the way.
Yeah.
We've had a few.
Oh, awesome.
We're continuing to pursue different partnerships.
Yeah, the first one. Well, I guess Bronco International was a good one. We're going to do some more work with them this year. Host Cocktails was a fun one. You guys worked with them as well, right?
I don't think
Damien?
so.
Oh, I thought Sunday's Finest. They rebranded. I thought I saw them sponsor.
Did
one
you
of
work
yours.
with like Chio's company?
Yeah.
Like,
So they're Chio's. The Cocktail is currently sponsoring this right now.
yeah, that's great. Chio's great.
I'd
Chio's
love
awesome.
to get Culver's to sponsor the pod just because I talk about them so much.
Yeah, dude, this is the second time Culver's has come up because we were talking about blue plates the other day, and apparently blue plates, the color of blue itself is like
Thanks.
it suppresses the appetite.
Oh,
And I was like, hold on, I'm like, what about the butter burger? I'm like, it's like that place is laced in blue.
yeah.
You know, no one's not eating a butter burger when
How
they
about
go
Blue
there.
Apron Catering?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going strong.
Are they? Yeah. I just don't know. Is that a home delivery thing? Is that
No,
They're like a
Oh no, sorry, Blue
they're-
Plate Catering.
yeah.
It's literally called Blue Plate
Blue
Catering.
Plate
Um,
Catering?
yeah, it's right
Blue
around
Apron
the corner.
too,
It's
yeah.
across the street from Ever.
Oh, okay.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah,
way
they're-
down on Fulton.
Yep. Yep.
Weird name too.
Blue Apron
Yeah.
is the delivery one. You're right about
Right,
that.
right. Well, I just the Blue Plate. I was like literally named it Blue Plate Catering.
yeah.
But you shout out to Blue Plate.
I recently,
I'm sure you guys are doing some cool things over there.
I
If you're
recently
listening, you
read
want to
that,
sponsor or whatever. Like,
I heard that sweets are an appetite suppressant. There's a place out by
Yeah,
my
that's why you
dad's
finish
house.
with dessert.
There you go.
No, it's true.
wait,
That's why it's at the
do you,
end of the
did you
meal.
mean the flavor, like the sweet palate?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's
that makes
an
sense.
all-you-can-eat roasted chicken place out by my dad's. Shout out to Crandall's. It's a good old school supper club place, and it's like $16 for all-you-can-eat roasted chicken.
It's dangerous, man.
It's especially out there. It's dangerous. Yeah, it's some big appetites. But when you first sit down, they put down a basket of like sweet rolls.
Oh,
And
Just to
I'm
kill
like,
your
That's a trap. Don't do
Yeah.
that.
Kill your appetite.
Kill the appetite.
art of the
Interesting.
buffet.
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it.
Genius.
I'm like writing that down. I'm like, how can we use that somewhere? It's like, that's so interesting. I'm like, well, what else? Like, that's why, like, I don't know. Sometimes, like, do you guys get this a lot when you guys go to like a brunch? It's like the pastry is always first. Like,
Yeah.
why?
I think it's
Now
just
you
the
know
easiest
why.
thing to put
We
out.
do it. I'm guilty of
Yeah.
it myself. Like I go to I go to Jason Hamill's restaurant, Lula Cafe, and like usually the first thing I'm like we're diving into the menu, and then it's like, oh, by the way, what pastries do you have? And then that's the first thing that hits the table, and I usually eat it, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It's ease of execution.
Maybe he needs to switch that up.
well, I wonder. It's like I feel like
It's
that's
a brunch
common
thing.
theme. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
brunch thing.
Yeah.
Like people just eat sugar before they're savory.
But then there's pancakes, and this is
Yeah.
bullshit. This
How
is none
about
of this
the
is true.
how about the pancakes for the table? We've talked about it on Joiners. Like that's a dad move. My dad's always like, and then we'll get like some French toast for the table.
Yeah.
There's always like a sweet for the table. It's like I really want this, but I will feel guilty if it's
Yeah,
just for
exactly.
me.
Right,
So I'm
My
gonna
dad does
drag
that
you
all
into
the
that.
time. Yeah.
I will say, you know, like I don't usually go for like the sweets on the brunch thing. I'm just like, I want savory, I want salty, I want delicious. But the exception is this place called Tre Kronar. If you
Yeah.
guys are not
So
familiar,
good, the Swedish place.
I swear to God. So it's a lot of people that are listening are probably like, I've never heard of that.
It's amazing.
Tre Kronar, and it's on the north side. It's off Foster Avenue. And what I love about this place is I'll go walk in. I used to live right in North Park University campus, so I could walk to this place every day. The Anders hash and eggs is like must get. Then the second thing is the Belgian waffle. I don't know if you guys have had it before. It's just like exactly what you imagine. It's just like topped with a bunch of cream, fruit, and it's like it's so fucking good. And also, I always tell people when I recommend it and they're going there, I'm like, whatever the special sausage is of the day, get that. It's always good. And then they always have like a rotation of like 3 pastries, which one of them will be a vanilla hazelnut, kind of like, I don't know what you call it. It's like a laminated dough, and it looks like a kind of like a Pop-Tart shape, but it's like lifted when it bakes. And then in the center, it's like
Like a
kinda,
Danish?
like Danish maybe. Yeah. I just had one at Loaf Lounge, and it was like savory
Loaf
mushroom.
Lounge. You guys been?
Yeah, so good.
Loaf Lounge?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I brought Danny Loaf Lounge on Saturday.
It's true.
That's so sweet.
It's so good.
Danny
Tim's
had
always
a
bringing me breakfast in bed.
Danny,
You guys are adorable.
we had to record intros, but Danny
knock,
had a
knock.
good tip for Loaf Lounge.
I'm like imagining Tim walking into the bedroom while Danny's still sleeping, and he's like, "Hey, Danny, I brought you some breakfast."
I look at Ellie, I'm like, shh.
Yeah, I'm like Jabba the Hutt, just eating all this stuff that people are bringing.
But this is a pro move because their breakfast sandwiches, I think they're probably the best breakfast sandwiches in the city. I know it's a big statement, but it's a messy breakfast sandwich.
Which one are you talking about? I ate it.
That's
awesome.
Because of the egg
muffin.
But Danny gets the egg
Runny.
over hard.
That's the
And
move,
it
man.
travels
because the
better.
runny one, is very messy. You
Okay.
have to be in person.
Shout out to Loaf Lounge. When I went there, I love. So I'm in this conversation. I used to be like, it's like I'm dialed in here now, right? This thing like it
ignore
struck
me.
a chord with me, and I want to like make this clear. Runny eggs, right? There's a time and place for runny eggs, right?
Yeah.
Like I've never been the au cheval guy that wants the egg on top.
Same.
I need a burger to be burgers.
Yep.
But like I get the runny egg thing. I feel like I went through that phase in my life where I'm like, oh, it's extra sauce on my plate, and it's great. But I firmly believe in a nice, perfectly scrambled egg, or like a over hard because you're just like you're eating this thing, and it's like next thing you know, you need like 15 napkins,
100%.
to just finish the sandwich.
Yeah.
I will also attest to Loaf Lounge breakfast sandwich with sausage, egg, and cheese.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's perfectly spiced. I just had the pastrami one for the first time. That's very good as well. And then
Their salmon toast is fucking
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
fire.
did that.
Or gas, as the kids say.
Gas. Shit is gas.
Is that what they're
gas.
saying now?
That's
Shit
gas.
is
Yeah.
I gotta update.
It's fire. It's before the fire is the gas. So
No, after the fire is the gas. No.
oh, the gas is
gas lights.
Oh, no, gas
like
lights
even
You can't have a breakfast sandwich conversation without talking about kasama.
yes.
That egg is perfect.
Yeah, the egg is
You
perfect.
can eat that with one hand.
Yeah.
No mess.
Yes.
Their hash brown is good. Very, very
Loaf Lounge
very
hash
good.
brown is also very
yeah,
good.
loaf. That's why
They're
I
both
was like,
really
I'm
good,
treading
yeah.
it carefully. Like Loaf Lounge does the same hash.
They're both great.
They're both great.
You know who's better than both of them? McDonald's.
Oh,
I'm
shit.
just kidding. I love to eat all of them.
I brought Danny the hash brown. He didn't eat it.
Well, I was crushing this. We had to
Danny.
record. Then they're in a rush. Like,
He let it get cold.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you can't eat that. I mean,
you-
that's a fresh thing, you know?
Well, the over hard thing originated with my wife, who can't have a runny yolk. She's just very sensitive to like a runny egg yolk.
In
So
what
she
in what
started,
way? Like
texturally, it messes with. Like, you can't serve her a runny yolk.
wow.
like-
Okay.
Not her jam.
How did you guys eat kimchi fried rice here that day?
We did. It was probably mixed in.
Okay, yeah.
I think like
maybe
if
she
doesn't
didn't
realize,
see it.
yeah, that's the
Okay.
key.
You're lucky.
hide
She would have
it.
come back.
Okay,
in the
I gotta
kitchen and
add that
kicked
into
your
open
ass.
table notes right now. Like Danny's wife does not like runny eggs, so
She also doesn't like when dishes are prepared without full explanations. Apparently, we learned at Tim's place last night.
Oh yeah. So we watched the Super Bowl together. We have a cookbook club where we pick a book, and then it's like every couple months we get together.
I love that, man.
And everyone picks a dish from the book. You prepare it and bring it to
I love
meet.
that.
And,
Yeah.
we eat it. Yeah, the last one we did was Lula, I think, and then we had a book picked out for Super Bowl, and then we're like, let's just do Super Bowl themed food.
Yeah.
So
Posan was on the list.
Posan was on the list. Yeah.
I love that it was.
so good. Yeah.
But that's interesting. Yeah.
No, but
We
the
had
rest of it was
Zaragoza was
normal.
there. He brought Sonoran hot dogs.
Nice.
My sister did a couple 7-layer dips. Danny did a killer chili. Ellie did an artichoke dip. It was good. It was fun, like stepping outside of the book, because then it let people play to their strengths. And I think the food was really good.
Yeah, but usually when we do it, like everyone kind of puts the dishes up, we take like pictures, and then everyone kind of goes around and explains what they made.
Yeah.
And last night, things were just being served at different times because certain things were ready and people needed to use the oven to reheat certain things or whatever.
Yeah.
So we kind of like broke the the flow that we usually have, the format, and Ellie just could not like let it be. She was like, "Why is like it like?" She had a total like break, like mental break.
She's a creature of
She's
habit.
like, chef, this is not.
It was crazy, and we were all like, "Why is Ellie losing it?" She's like the chillest person, never gets upset. But this
Fuck your Posam.
She had a lot on her mind. She's a big Swiftie.
Jesus, I just learned that yesterday. The word Swifty.
yeah,
What the fuck? What?
just a Taylor Swift.
So
fan,
yeah,
I
we're
guess.
and then it came to a weird conversation of, well, what is, because there's the Beehive,
What is
yeah.
this?
which is the
that's,
Beyonce's
Beyonce, yeah.
army.
Oh,
You got the Beehive, you got the Swifties, you've got the Blackpink army, like, and then
BTS army.
it just became. Is it? Was it BTS army? What is the black? Oh, the
Blackpink's-
Blinks.
They're called Blinks, yeah.
And then it was like, well, who's got the biggest? You know, and then it was like a actual
Oh my
competition.
god.
Biggest what, Tom? Because it's not Taylor Swift.
Yeah. We're on food, and so it's a perfect segue. What are some favorite? I know this question is always hard for some people to, so we can change it to like, what are some recent favorite spots of yours, and or some favorite go-to regular spots?
I can tell you, I've got two good answers right now. My favorite restaurants right now, favorite new restaurants, Maxwell's Trading and Bracero are my two favorites.
Hell yeah.
I live pretty close to both of them. It's great. It's a little dangerous, but places I hit up frequently.
Yeah.
This is kind of sad. So I had a meeting last Friday, 4 days ago, with Isle, the owner of the factory, and we were going to meet at Palace Grill,
Oh,
hell yeah.
White
And
Palace
White
Grill.
just Palace Grill.
Which one is that?
Wait,
It's the
at
one.
Homestead?
No, it's at
Roosevelt.
It's on Madison and like Ogden. It's like kind of by Billy Goat Tavern. It's right. It's a
Oh,
United.
by United Center.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's an old school diner. It's been there since 1938. I love it. Shannon and I live right there. It's walkable, and we go all the time. And so I'm like, I told Isle, I'm like, hey, let's meet at Palace Grill. And I pull up, and the windows are boarded up, and
Oh, what?
WGN News is out front. And I'm like, oh, God damn it, what happened? So
yeah.
I pulled around. They have a parking lot. I pulled to the back, and there's like a guy in a car. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
He's like, it burnt down.
Oh my
And
God.
it sucks. It's like a Chicago institution.
Oh man.
Jesus Christ.
But they are going to rebuild.
Oh, sorry. Awesome.
Nice.
Yep.
Very cool.
So,
Yeah.
But I'm sad that like my weekend spot is
Yeah.
blown up now.
I love just old diners.
It's the best vibe in
best,
there. It's
yeah.
got like the old Bulls and Blackhawks
Oh.
memorabilia.
Okay.
It's the owners
Not
there.
so much Golden Nugget, more like
sports themed.
sports theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the proximity to the United Center. And the owner will come up and tell you like kind of Rodney Dangerfield jokes about his wife. It's like one of those places. It's great.
You know, I didn't know you lived on the west side here, but I don't know if you've been to Uncle Mike's. I'm gonna
Yep,
shout them
we just
out.
went.
We were there last week.
Dude, you know, we're talking about breakfast sandwiches, and you know, I know whatever people can say whatever the fuck they want. It's our show, so I'm gonna say it. But I went to Uncle Mike's and had a breakfast sandwich. I know, like the usual go-to is like, you know, it's
The Longanese there.
Yeah,
Like,
it's Tocino,
you know, like the
whatever.
plates, right?
Yeah.
But what I did was, I went breakfast sandwich. They serve it on like a Toronto French roll. I don't know what you want to call it. And then they do. So I did the eggs, cheese, like American cheese, and sausage patty. And I'm not gonna lie, like it was fantastic.
Really?
Like,
I need to check that out.
absolutely.
Yeah, we were
fantastic.
looking at the menu because usually I go with the skirt steak, which is like their special, that or the tocino or longanisa, and we were looking at the menu. It's a pretty extensive menu. They've got like Reubens and stuff.
Yeah.
on there, burgers.
Yeah,
A
they
lot
have
of
like a
stuff.
whole American side
Yes.
and then a
Yep.
Filipino side.
Yeah. Danny, any favorite spots you want to throw out there?
One of the best meals I had recently was coming here, actually, to
thanks,
Perilla
man. Oh, man,
with my
so
wife.
sweet. I don't need to
Pretty
say that.
recently.
Thanks for
And,
the invite, man.
Yeah, it was
They
really
didn't need a
great.
joiner that
What?
night.
Well, I want to throw this out there for people that don't know Danny.
And we crushed a lot of food.
Korean food. Danny is no stranger to Korean food. He grew up in Los Angeles and not that far from K-Town,
Yeah.
Koreatown.
That's right.
So, you know, I love learning that about you first and foremost, and that we can like connect on that shit. And I was like, I'm like, okay, if you've never met Danny or his wife, like they're both very small stature, right? Like I was
tiny
like
people.
tiny people, not tiny, but anyways, I'm like looking at what they ordered, and I'm like, oh, let's augment a couple things or whatever, and they could take it home. Like, don't and I think I even stopped by and I was like, hey man, like don't you guys can refry this, so don't worry, like don't be overwhelmed, like take some of it home. And they were like, yeah, they finished everything. And I'm like, what? I was like, holy fuck. Like I couldn't even.
It's insane.
Yeah, you guys put down some food. That's
Dude, it
great.
was so delicious.
Oh man.
couldn't stop.
I'll say I was a little nervous about that because people from LA have been the most judgmental about
Really?
anything, especially
spoiled with Korean food there.
Yeah, definitely.
But also, this format is just so great.
It's
And
fun.
The space is great. It's fun. Yeah, I mean, we went to Uncle Mike's recently. I went to Charlie Beinlich's has been talking about for a long time.
Yeah.
Was that your first time?
It was my
going?
first time. Like,
Who told you about this place?
well, Julie Kaplan, so Ronnie, one of our friends, his wife, it's her favorite burger, and she loves going there.
It's the
so like
best.
I'd been hearing about it for years and years and years. Tim recently had been there.
Yeah,
and
Mike
he talked about
Sula
it.
mentioned it on Joiners, as did Rob Levitt.
Yeah.
So
These
yeah,
guys
it's
know.
up in it's in Northbrook.
Northbrook.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys don't like know this place.
Yeah.
No, is it not like no, I've only been once.
I grew up in Northbrook.
Yeah.
So good.
I remember in high school I couldn't get in here because you needed to be
You need
21. It's a bar. It's a tavern.
Oh, there were kids when I was there.
Maybe like if you
I didn't see any
if you
kids
have
were there.
well, maybe
the
things
kids
have
were drinking
changed
beer. They
first
must
of
have
all.
had fake.
But if you don't know, it's like right off of 94. You get off on Lake Cook Road, and then you got to like turn left on Skokie Road or Boulevard.
Yeah, we
Go
took
people
like
over,
to Dundee and then whatever.
Yeah, it's a gem, man. It's a hidden
is.
gem.
That burger was maybe one of my favorite burgers.
It's a
I'd
juicy
ever had.
burger.
so good.
Burger and shrimp cocktail. That's the
Yeah.
order.
The shrimp
highlight.
cocktail is so funny because
It's a
Ellie,
tiny menu.
Sorry, there's a
delivery coming.
delivery driver.
yeah, Ellie. It's funny we're gonna talk about all of her food aversions, but one of them is like cocktail sauce, and the shrimp cocktail there just comes like covered in it. It's not like on the side.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so it came out, and I was like, so I'm like using my fork, like trying to get. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't like get it fully off.
Right. I thought you were just like, I'm gonna take it for the team and eat all these.
Well, I ate most of it.
What are your other spots around there? I've heard that Hole in the Wall is good. That's like right across the street.
I haven't been to Hole in the Wall, but I grew up like I grew up Barnaby's and you know
Barnaby's is great.
Northbrook. Like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna shout out Prairie Grass Cafe.
Yeah, Prairie Grass.
Really cool.
Hackneys.
Yeah, Hackney's got onion loaf.
Yeah. And then they do this like big, like burnt cheese or something like over the burger. It literally the cheese is like that wide.
Wow.
They like cook it on like a griddle, so it gets all like
Okay.
crusty and
Yeah,
caramelized.
I like that.
I'm like, what else did I fuck with in Northbrook?
That's all you needed.
Just like the Little Louie's, the Mario's pizzas, like that's where I grew up, man. Just going and getting like fried shit and slices of pie that was like very value driven. When you're a broke
100%.
kid.
Yeah.
So
What's that one breakfast joint that we used to go to at like
Egg Harbor Cafe. I was going to say they're everywhere now.
Yeah, there's a
in
bunch.
Skokie?
In Skokie. Sarkis.
Sarkis.
Oh, yeah,
you guys
Sarkis.
know
You guys
that?
know
Eduardo
that.
Yeah,
loves
I've
that
been there.
place.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
like a Nutrier hangout. All the
Oh,
high
yeah,
school
right,
kids
right.
go there.
Yeah.
They had one in the city too, didn't they?
I don't know if they did, but that's where remember those like you would start school late days, whatever they used to call them. That was like every day for me, but there was like an official day where you started late, and it's like we always end up trying to be adults, at like 16 years old, and we're like driving to like a restaurant to
Yeah,
eat
to eat real
breakfast.
breakfast.
Why? I would just now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like I was probably just like stoned, just like yeah, breakfast sounds good.
Truant Thomas.
We're going to jump into this, though, guys. We've got this smell is intoxicating. So for those of you listening, I do apologize. You won't be able to enjoy this, but you can head over to our YouTube channel where we are bringing back. I know that sounds weird because we never actually released these, but we had recorded like 20 episodes of this cup ramen review. Then they just never got released. So we are sitting here with Tim and Danny, and we're going to do our cup ramen review.
Is this the number one, or you've never had this one?
So, you mean this particular cup ramen?
Yep.
You know, honestly, I don't know if I've had this cup.
I've had the full version.
regular
The regular
version.
version, not the cup version of
Yes.
it. So.
So I'll explain how this thing works really quick. If you're listening, we are sitting in front of an individual portioned cup ramen. This one hails from South Korea, probably made here in California. The brand is Nongshim, which is a very popular brand, and this is the Shin Black Ramyeon. So what's special about this one is there's the famous Shin Ramyeon. This one is made with beef bone broth. So this is called Shin Black. And we're going to have a 3 rating criteria here. We're going to rate 1 through 5, no decimals.
I thrive on decimals.
Yeah. Decimals make it too easy.
too easy.
So flavor, that kind of like the broth, right? The noodle, like what we think about, like the texture of it, like the size of it, like the firmness, all of that good stuff. And then lastly, the value, and I'll share the price with you once we're done. So
We should guess the
while I
price.
was talking, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. It's actually good. Maybe we'll just add that in there.
I need to know what the range is.
Danny's
before I
already
guess.
dived deep into this.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know.
done with it.
Danny,
Yeah.
Danny doesn't know how to use
I want
chopsticks.
to like
Oh, is
create
that
a.
right?
Tim, can you feed this to me? Or
I want to paint a picture here out there. So first and foremost, what's unique about this ramyeon is the broth is like super creamy and like almost like what you would see in a tonkatsu like ramen. It's got like a milkiness, like kind of appearance to the broth.
I wish we had kimchi.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that I always eat kimchi. Like I need ramyeon and I need kimchi. It's like goes hand in hand. But let's start with the flavor of the broth. Okay,
wait, so what are the 3 categories? Broth, flavor, noodles, and what's the third?
it's
Oh,
a
value.
Yeah, value. So,
I like the broth. It's got a nice spice level.
Yeah.
It's not
Spicy.
overpowering.
but not overpowering. It's rich. Like you actually can almost believe that this is like bone broth,
Yeah.
not just like powder.
I
So I'm gonna go flavor wise here. I'm gonna go with like a. I'm gonna go with 4.
You really threw me without the decimals.
Yeah.
I think I got to go 4 also. I like the flavor.
Tim's a 4 on flavor.
I'm trying to think how it could be better. And
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
can't-
what a 5 would be.
Yeah. It might be a 5.
We've had a 5 on, believe it or not. We've had a perfect score ramen before.
I mean, I'm a 5 for this on flavor.
Yeah, 5.
Just like
Nice garlic level.
Yeah,
nice
what's
zing.
wrong with it, right?
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to give it a 5.
You can't
Yeah.
do that.
Tim,
Oh,
you can't
change?
revise.
All right, are you locked in the 4?
Tim's locked in.
It's like chess when you
Yeah.
take your finger
Yeah,
off the
you took
piece.
your
I think the
finger off,
noodles
man.
have like a nice chew, but and forgive
Wait,
me.
Danny, what was your broth?
5.
Oh, 5 on. So Andy and Danny are 5s,
Of course. All right.
Me and
Average
Tim.
of 4.5.
or we're well.
The average can have a decimal.
Well, yeah.
It has to.
That's where.
No,
that's
you
where.
have to round up.
Round up to the closest 10.
All right. Noodle, Danny. I'm sorry. Where were you at?
No, it's like it tastes like a normal, like a ramen noodle. Like it has some
It's got
chew
good
to it.
consistency.
It's like it's the same kind of texture. I don't again without having a bunch of them to try. It's hard to know. Just going off memory,
Right.
and it tastes similar to what I've experienced. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that makes it a 5 or a 3, like because it's either like that's the standard
Yeah.
and they've hit it, or it's
Or-
like they're not doing anything different from their competitors, so they get a 3. What's
Tim,
the
you wanna go?
mentality?
I would eat this for a quick lunch.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the
Definitely.
sodium content.
Yeah, it's hot. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Some things are better left.
Unknown.
Yeah. Might be a once a month thing. This would be a fun one to do with Mike Satinover, Ramen Lord.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
No, he loves Korean noodles. So
have you guys been to a shop?
Yeah, I need to go
And
back.
we are going. Next
Oh, yeah,
week.
we are going next week. It's hard to get in, man.
yeah, dude. Listen, if Mike's listening, like, make it easier, man, or like, don't be so fucking popular
Stop
that
being
it's
so
so
good.
Yeah, exactly. All right, noodles. Danny's somewhere between a 3 and a 5 over there. Tim. Tim's just enjoying it.
I am enjoying it because it's hot. I want to
Yeah.
get it down while it's hot.
Jesus, Andy's almost done.
think
Yeah. How are you thinking it through? How do you evaluate noodle? Is it uniqueness or is it?
No, I think like for me, it's like, yeah, is it cooked properly?
It is cooked
Flavor-wise,
properly.
Firmness. Is it like when you pick it up? Is it like falling apart? you
No,
know,
it's
or is
holding.
it-
It's
right.
holding together. So I guess I'm giving it a 5 in noodle.
The perfect meal.
A perfect.
The decimal thing. I think you got to introduce decimals.
We I think we tried it in the beginning, and it just takes
Don't let-
longer for
yeah,
people
don't
to
let
like.
Tim
Should we go
change his
fractions?
style.
I'd settle for a fraction.
There you go.
I think for the noodle, I think the flavor could be a little better on the noodle, but I like the consistency. They're easy to grab.
Yeah.
I think I'm going 4.
Four noodles. Andy.
I'm gonna say 3 or 4. I think. I'm
Okay.
not-
What's wrong with it?
I just like I feel like they overcook quickly.
Well, I think that's the intention, though, right? Like, because we both know
That's what I was getting
Shin
at.
Ramyun,
What's the intention?
packet, the noodles are so much thicker, right? These are fried noodles. So for listeners that are like, aren't they all the same? Like now, these things they're all over the place. There's air fried versions of these noodles, which is like a healthier option. This is the classic, just like fried noodle. But they have to make the noodles smaller, like in these cup versions, because it needs to cook with
Cook in a
just
certain amount
poured
of time.
boiled water over it, right? Like, so
Convenience level, pretty good.
Right.
I think you should introduce a new category, and that is package design.
oh, you know what? That's actually really good because some of them have been
good point.
horrible.
Right.
Yeah, I think, and that definitely, when
Mr. Kimchi, I'm talking to you out there, man. That branding is,
it could be so bad it's good though.
yeah.
But when you go to the supermarket, you can't taste everything. You got to go off package design. It's very important.
That's why one of my favorite brands out there is probably the most overlooked because they haven't changed their branding since like the 70s.
Who?
The Yukijang.
Oh, bowl noodles.
Yeah, it's like bowl noodle. I'm sure you've seen it. Like
Nongshin.
it's so popular. I think that's the intention. They're like keep it. It's like a Porsche. Why redesign this? It's perfect.
The 911 was designed by the head designer's son.
Oh,
I
what?
can't remember where I heard this story, but I guess legend has it that he drew up the 911. Dad was like, I don't think so.
Oh, wow. And it's like ended
Or it
up in
could have
his
been
briefcase.
maybe his dad worked at a different company. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get back to you
Yeah.
on this one. You're gonna come on joiners. I'll tell you.
Yeah, we need a fact check for Tim.
Yeah.
But there's something there where like the son spun it off, and then it's like the iconic 911.
I love that. Did everyone go on the noodle?
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one left. I'm gonna give it a 4.
So it's 4, 3, 4, 4, and 5.
And last but not least, let's do guess that price.
What's the range?
Closest without going over.
They go
Why
from,
don't we not give you that? Let's what would you
be happy.
feel like you would pay for one of these?
$3.
Okay, Tim.
$4.79
Wow.
pre-tax.
Yeah. Okay. Andy probably knows, but it's on the sheet actually. It's written right there, but
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
We'll find out when they invoice us, Danny.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like $2.
Whoa. If this is $2,
That's
this is
that's
what I'm eating every
experience.
day.
That's experience talking. The answer, ladies and gentlemen, is $3.
Booyah.
Really 3 flat.
Danny called it.
Danny wins. $3.
Wait, is this
$18. Where did you get
is this
that?
a no decimal
That's
situation?
6-pack.
From
That's
where?
$18.
Boom.
No.
from H-Mart.
Well, hold on. We're buying.
don't
in
try to
bulk
make Danny
now.
seem
You're getting
even-
economies of scale here. How much is one single thing?
Yeah, he's
Great
saying that.
question.
$3.
Well, it's $3. But he's saying that I'm buying the 6-pack. So
No,
if I'm going to
classic
check,
Tim.
I'm not going to say the name of this company, but it's
So
widely
argumentative
used.
and dismissive of others' successes.
I'm a man of numbers and facts.
Here we go.
This that one that we're eating costs $3.
When you buy 6 of them, what if I just want one?
I mean, you can find it if you're listening
This is true.
at home and you're living in Ohio and you're like, I really want to try this with these guys. You can find it on a global company that easily delivers to your door, and it's saying $12.48 for a 6-pack through them.
Okay.
And how much is shipping? Is that
You know,
Do you have Prime? Do you have
I'm just glass.
a Prime membership?
whoa.
I didn't
Hey, no
say
spoilers.
Amazon.
Shipping. You know,
Thomas, I'm just
yeah,
giving you a
it's
hard
too
time.
much. But okay, $3 for a cup of this. All right,
Worth it. Worth it. Yeah.
I love that. So value 1 to 5.
I mean, value's a 5.
Yeah.
Value's a
For
5.
me.
Value's a 4 for me.
Okay, 4.
It's too expensive.
Yeah. Values are 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 5. And the 5 comes from the value for me. It's one. It's the experience of knowing what most of these cup ramens cost. And I'll tell you, we've had really expensive ones on here.
What's expensive? $15?
We need a new sponsor so we could have got you guys like the premium stuff, but
There's no way.
There's like-
no way. $15.
no, not $15. But
like $7
we've had like
Yeah,
$7.25s on here, and we're like, wow. But I will, you know what? Also,
And
to
were
be
they
fair,
good?
for listeners, this is like the skinny cups, right? Like not the big wide cup ramens. These are like the little like
Oh, the smaller ones?
snack
Yeah, yeah.
versions. So, but a lot of flavor, good flavor.
I
a
will
lot
say though, Korea and Japan have so many like incredible instant noodles. Like the noodles are like legit.
Okay. So that's where you were
Like
giving it a 3,
jjajangmyeon
4.
and jangpong, like it's like they have this version of that.
right.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
What's the price on that?
Oh, Danny, have you never had japaghetti before? Oh my God! I'm gonna give you a pack. We might have a pack downstairs. We'll give them one. It's an instant jjajangmyeon.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Wow.
And also, like in Korea, like what we do with this is like even like if we were opening up the packet at home and cooking that, most people like chef it up. So they'll like add like frozen seafood into the broth or like fresh, scallions on
Egg.
top,
Like that.
eggs, right? Like people really do instant ramen up. And then back home in Korea, they're just opened up one of these in LA where it's like a kiosk where you can just walk in, you get your instant noodle pack. They like give you a bowl to make it in this like machine, and there's like all this topping center
Oh,
where
that's
you like,
cool.
I want to buy an egg, I want to buy this and that. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this.
Yeah, that
I
was
really
great.
did, and the packaging held the heat exactly how you'd want it. It's still warm, and I'm still not done.
Right.
I am making the mistake of looking at the ingredients.
No, don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't do that.
Never
don't
a
read
good
the
thing.
sodium content.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this episode of Cup Ramen Review, or this segment. So
was fun,
overall,
thank you.
though, where do we stand here? Like, is this your?
This guy?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I like the original stuff, the Yukejang one,
Yeah.
the best.
Lot skinnier noodle though, the yukejang.
Yeah,
Like now.
definitely.
Well, hope you guys are enjoying that. I've got a question for you guys here before we
ready.
get into our beverage, but it's kind of a closing question that we have all of our guests, and it's always like one of my favorite ones to ask. I feel like it's the one that leaves the most inspiring for me sometimes. And the question is, what kind of advice would you share with your younger selves? And whoever needs a little bit of time to think on this, but
Do you have
Well,
some-
I've got something.
yeah.
all right, Danny.
We're gonna go deep for a second. So, in my junior year of college, I had applied to an internship at the Daley Show. I also applied to the summer version of Teach for America called Breakthrough Collaborative that was taking place in New Haven. And I did my interview for Breakthrough, and at the time I was thinking like I really wanted to do Teach for America, and this was kind of like the stepping stone. And so I did that interview. I did it actually from it was like on a Skype call because I was in Spain studying abroad. And I do the interview for Breakthrough. I get in, it starts X date, I commit to it. Then maybe a month or so before that, the Daily Show is like, you're hired
Whoa.
to do this internship for us. And I also, wanted to do like comedy writing and all this stuff. And at the time I was like, well, I'd already committed to Breakthrough, so I turned them down.
Wow.
And I always just wonder,
Jon Stewart.
how different the
turned him
path
down.
would have been.
Interesting.
had I like gone through that instead of like breakthrough in education. So I don't know if that really counts as like what advice I would give myself.
You could have been the lead on The Office.
No, I mean, who knows? Like maybe I would have been like, who knows?
Right.
I think it's more just like one of those, crossroads that you're kind of like
what ifs.
wondering.
Mm.
But I don't know that it's really advice. I think I still would have like, based on like integrity, I committed to this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have
But didn't the
tell someone to
Teach
undo
for
it.
America thing not work out?
I did. Yeah, they did not. They did not accept me.
Yeah. Well, what I want to take away from there is because we work with a lot of like younger adults in our line of work, and I feel like all too often there's like these constant pressures about, oh, I'm at a fork in the road of my life, and I'm like, what I always want to tell them is like, dude, that is one fork of many forks that are going to come up in your life. Like, don't, I'm not trying to say like take it lightly, but also this isn't like the end all, right? Like you can completely pivot in like 5 years from now and not even be close to it, right? Like that's essentially like what happened. And here you are in your journey.
Yeah.
And you've got an incredible enterprise of like, awesome businesses, and, you're happy, right?
Yeah, it worked out. I mean, I think the advice I would give to someone is just like be true to yourself. And I think what you said makes a lot of sense as well. Like, don't sweat every decision.
Right.
But I think, relative to that, it's so frustrating when I meet someone who is like, I have absolutely no regrets.
Yeah.
It's like people that just like don't accept that like there could be things that you regret. It's okay. Like, just be honest with me. Don't like give me some bull that like everything worked out exactly as you had anticipated. I
Right.
cannot stand that.
Yeah.
Like that fake, that like kind of phony quality
Right.
in
Like-
people. It's like, just be real with
Oh,
me.
you wouldn't have put in like $100,000 on Google stock like when you were in middle school, like if you had the opportunity, right? Yeah, you wouldn't have done that. No regrets.
$100,000 burning a pocket in your, or burning a hole in your pocket when you're in middle school. All right, for me, advice to give my younger self. Is that the that how we're phrasing
Advice
that?
to your younger self.
I think my advice would have been to focus on uniforms earlier on. I think we were like hard pressed to let that go. But I think the advice for anyone in any career is like be nimble and don't try to map out your future, because you can't tell what opportunities are going to come your way. If we were rigid and didn't listen to market demands, we'd still be we'd be doing something different. But like the world doesn't need another menswear company. There's plenty of those.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to start a business, you have to ask yourself why. Like there has to be a reason. There needs to be a need for something. And we were lucky that we were able to identify that once we started doing it.
Right.
But and a lot of the advice you get early on is like, well, in apparel, it's just don't do it, because it's a really difficult industry. And there's a guy
I
who
can relate.
well, so maybe a listener out there.
Yeah.
But I remember early on when I was trying to get clothing started, and there was like a successful designer in Cleveland, Sean Bilovecki, who we manufactured for here in Chicago. And I sent him my like business deck, and I explained what I wanted to do. And I was like, hey man, if you have any advice, what would you tell me? And I didn't hear back from him for like 2 weeks. And then I got an email and it was like, hey man, sorry for the delay. He's like, I was traveling, but he's like, I read your business plan on my flight back, and I thought about it the whole time, and I took some notes. Here's what I think. He's like, first of all, don't do it.
Wow.
But if you have to, he's like, just take your time, and these are the steps I'd take. These are the mistakes that I took, that I made, and these are the things that you should avoid. He's like, keep in mind, this is just my story, but push through and just don't be discouraged. And so that's kind of the advice I give to people too. Like when people are like, oh, do you have any advice? It's well, first of all, I say don't do it. But if you have to, like, don't be so tied to your concept, because maybe that's not the concept. And while you're learning the industry, you just have an open mind, and you'll see doors that open along the way. And you have to be aware enough to walk through them, or brave enough to go off your path and explore other opportunities.
Right. That's awesome. Like as you were just saying that, I can think of a bunch of people that like would love to hear that kind of advice. And I feel like we share that same remark. Like we've had younger people coming up to us and saying like, hey, we want to do our own restaurant one day. And I always love that one story, and I still use it today. It's like, let me talk to you for 15 minutes about why you shouldn't do this industry. And then if you still feel compelled to do it, then here, we'll talk about what will work for you, right? So,
sorry. The other part of that, don't quit your day job.
yeah.
A lot of people want to start a business and they're like, yeah, I'm taking the jump. I'm going to leave my corporate job. No, don't walk away from a paycheck. Wait, if you have the bandwidth to do it, work until your hobby or your interest can support you.
Yeah, like Mike Satin over.
Otherwise, you're cleaning factory toilets for.
Yeah, that's what happened with
Ramen.
Ramen Lord. Like he kept working that other job just
True.
to fund this.
Yeah,
He
right.
could have easily stopped. I mean, he could have stopped a long time ago and started, Akahoshi sooner, but he was smart and he made sure he saved enough money. He didn't have to have investors. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to just share some information with our listeners about where they can find you guys. I want to check in with you guys if you want to share your personal Instagram accounts, but for sure, you guys can check them out on Instagram at Joiners Pod, and your respective businesses, if you guys want to share.
Yes, my company's called Stock Manufacturing. We're based in Chicago. We do uniforms, a lot of custom design stuff. These guys know. We also have stuff ready to go on the rack.
Awesome.
Scofflaw Group. You can follow us at Scofflaw, and then all the other businesses will kind of be linked out through there probably.
Awesome.
And
We've got a little gift here from our sponsor. This is from Chio at Cocktail Collective. This is actually being featured here at our restaurant right now. It's our Lunar New Year cocktail from Perilla. It's done by one of our managers here. This is the Jasmine Dragon. And there's a lot going on here. So I'm going to read through this in case.
Can Danny guess?
Oh.
well, if it's cheap, if it's like West 32 soju in here and so on and so forth.
No. So she's got kind of like a part of this, but it was kind of developed here in house.
Is there anything
This is
apolog in it?
delicious.
There is no apolog.
Wow. Okay.
So this one's a little bit complicated. There's a lot of touches here.
Don't. Danny
There's
won't
like
back
that
down.
floral like baiju kind of thing going on.
You got Baiju in there, yeah. Ming River Baiju.
Yeah.
And
like always a
He's got
distinct
some
note.
training. Give him a minute.
Yeah.
He'll get it.
love that.
Lemon. I mean, there's some kind of citrus going on, like a yuzu or
You got lemon.
Lemon.
Lemon is done.
Ding ding.
Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 more ingredients.
I mean, obviously,
We'll wait
some
till you hear
sugar
the
to balance
prize
it
if you get
out.
them all.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I'm
you've
not gonna be able
got
to get-
syrup, but it's a sage syrup.
Okay.
So we got 3.
I'm not giving him sage syrup.
I mean,
If he said sage,
I put
yeah.
an X.
I don't think I'm gonna get all 7, but thank you for this. Scott.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's delicious. It's perfectly balanced.
So it's a jasmine infused Tamsul soju, which is like a pine soju. We've got a little Madre Espadín mezcal. This is the black label, and Gran Bassano Blanco vermouth with a little Uncompany Marigold Amaro, a little touch of Baiju in there with some lemon and sage syrup. If you're not finishing the whole thing right now, you can shake the rest of that and strain it out and enjoy. I want to thank you guys, obviously, for taking the time to join us. For those of you guys that have not checked out the Joiners Pod here on all of the platforms, I feel like we don't do this enough, but please go check their episodes out. Make sure you are subscribing to both of our shows, liking, rating. I think
you guys probably do the same, but we accept positive reviews.
I love that. yeah. I think that those little things go a really long way for both of us. And so incredibly excited to share this episode. And Chicago's lucky to have you guys. So
Likewise.
ladies
Thank
and
you for
gentlemen,
having
This was
us.
fun. Thank
Tim
you.
and Danny.
Yeah.